St. Olaf College, a private liberal arts college in Northfield, Minnesota, home to around 3,000 students called Oles. We tend to be known for our rigorous academics, our internationally acclaimed music program, our quality study abroad programs, and most importantly, our Yaya tradition passed down from our Norwegian Lutheran founders. While you won't find this on the St. Olaf website, we're also known for having a student body mainly composed of students who are white and middle upper class.
This idea of what it means to be an Ole is necessarily adapting to the political realities of today. It is no longer considered acceptable to have a college that caters only to specific ethnic or religious groups, and subsequently the college has been working to increase racial diversity on campus. A gap has developed among the student body between students who have historically been the face of St. Olaf and the new generation of students who have not come from the Norwegian Lutheran background. This group of students, who we term non-mainstream students, have struggled to adapt to the mainstream culture and make this college their home.
This video is meant to share the stories of non-mainstream students at St. Olaf College in the hopes of making this environment a comfortable place for all students to share their stories. Our names are Lilia, Sarah, and Angel, and we are current students here. Like many others, we have often felt like we have had to give up a part of ourselves to conform to the mainstream culture at St. Olaf. We made this documentary to challenge the traditional mold of an Ole, because all of our voices deserve to be heard. St. Olaf is our home for 4 years, and it is our right and responsibility to try to make this campus our own.
A student from St. Olaf who's in the mainstream came from a mildly affluent suburb, had a nuclear family structure, homogeneous family structure, probably homogeneous community racially and ethnically.
Tend to be very wealthy, wear really nice clothing, brand names. They tend to go like for breaks and stuff like that. I hear a lot of them, oh, I just went to the Bahamas, or I just went to Europe, or I just went all these extravagant places that I don't get to go to.
Mainly come, not all the students, but mainly come from middle class, upper class families.
They have like this culture of containment where nobody's willing to let go of who they really are, and they feel like they need to conform to everything.
And the culture of Minnesota and of St. Olaf sometimes really put me off. They say it like this, no, I think that's kind of tricky, but I see what you're saying, and I'm just like, it's dumb, you fully disagree with it.
When I came to visit Olaf, they showed me 2 SSS, and then they kept the Chicago group together. The Chicago group was mainly Hispanic. They made sure that we saw a lot of minorities when we were on campus.
When I came to visit, I saw a bit of diversity in the school. So it wasn't really like, oh my god, this is completely different than what I'm used to, because I did go to a private high school.
I'm a part of the TRIO program and the SSS program, and before school even started, we had to come a month early to take a biology course. I came into St. Olaf thinking that it was the perfect school.
It was all minorities. It was, Hmong, Hispanic, and blacks.
Like the culture of it, I was very familiar with.
So like, oh, okay, like this is the environment that I'm used to.
I felt right at home. And then once school started and majority of people were white students, and I was just like, wow, culture shock, complete culture shock.
It sucks. Like, I don't really know what I got myself into.
It's not what I thought what it was going to be, in the sense that it was going to be super inclusive.
Sometimes, the references and the jokes are just different.
I was like, well, maybe this isn't the place that I thought it was.
I hate to say it, but admissions, they do an excellent job at covering it up. It is 78% white, but when they brought us here, I was like, wow, this college in Minnesota is 50-50. Like, I know I got my SSS family, but that's like, 175 students out of 3,000? It's like, they fooled me, to be honest. They really did.
This college is facing an identity crisis. It's living in a 19th century model where St. Olaf used to look a certain way, had a certain kind of alumni, and those people donate money to the school, and the school depends on that.
Our memories tend to fade about things that were not so great back in the day, and we just remember sort of this angelic place up on the hill. And we want to have that for our kids and our grandkids.
St. Olaf understands that the world is starting to change and that that demographic will no longer be able to sustain the college by itself. So it's trying to racially diversify itself, and that is leading it to an identity crisis. Who are we? Do we want to be the college that's open to the realities of the 21st century, or do we want to maintain this umyaya traditional vision of ourselves in order not to alienate our alumni and the people that donate money? And as a consequence, I think that they're not doing what they say they're doing correctly or in an ethical and straightforward manner.
Well, here at St. Olaf, diversity is really advertised. There are photographers going around campus taking pictures of the students. My Race and Power class teacher had told the photographers that she did not want them taking pictures of any of her classes or any of her students. So when the photographer walked in on class, it really caught her off guard. Our class is one of the most, if not the most diverse class at St. Olaf. I don't like that St. Olaf is trying to use marginalized students.
We want to preserve those things that are special about this campus. But we also need to acknowledge and honor those who always felt like they didn't quite belong. There were no efforts to try to figure out how to help people be a full participant, to be a full Ole.
The college needs to be honest about itself, about what it's doing and how it's manipulating statistics and numbers to promote a certain brand and a certain image of itself that doesn't necessarily correlate with the reality on campus.
You know, when they had the big blank poster paper up in the hall between the library and Butt Rock, remember that? And people were writing comments and there were some racial slurs there. I wasn't convinced that we knew how to handle that other than just take them down and try to bury it under the rug. It seemed like it was an opportunity. It was what some people call it's a teaching moment. How can we use this moment now to have a real conversation? Nobody knew how to have it. So we just let's pretend that didn't happen.
We got some negative public relation marketing issues with New York Times recently because St. Olaf was mentioned in one of the stories as a place where racial microaggressions are happening. I think that the college is much more likely to respond to that bad public image and anti-marketing and negative representation of the brand much more than they are going to respond to actual students that live and work here. Any of the issues that we intellectually discuss in the classroom are very real for a lot of people outside of the college. I don't think the college has a clear understanding of that.
The majority does not understand what it is to be a Latina, low income.
They'll just kind of be like, well, that's the way it is. That makes sense because that's all they've experienced.
Race is a taboo subject on campus. Nobody is even willing to step up and talk about it or even acknowledge that it exists. I think I am just trying to search for problems and create problems when I'm not, because there really are problems.
There are all these things that we kind of assume, oh, that's just the way it is.
It's not even discussed. You're kind of isolated from the real world. Kind of representative of the hill, like you're up where middle of nowhere, top of a hill. People here, I feel like they don't really have the real sense of what life is.
Speakers or having a Hispanic Latino week or having some mariachi bring people into the bubble, but the bubble does not go outside of itself.
What they see, what they experience isn't what other people experience.
I haven't been able to fully tell someone about my culture. No one has been interested in learning about what makes me different. They just put me in the same box as everyone else.
There's a large group of students that will come to St. Olaf and no one will question their being here. And then there are all these other folks who either are already insecure and questioning themselves and then somehow get that sort of reinforcement from other students or from the professors.
It should not be okay or acceptable for you to feel like, well, maybe because I'm uncomfortable by it, I should just pretend it's not there. The stories that are valued here are not the stories that I know, are not the stories that I've heard that I was raised with. So arriving here, people are telling me or implying to me that my whole life, that all of my experiences just aren't as important as theirs because they make them uncomfortable. If the numbers are going to continue to get bigger as we have been told they are, then those students need to feel like they have somewhere to go when they come here. And I don't just mean the SSS room. Most of the things I learned about race weren't from St. Olaf trying to get me to learn about race. It just wasn't. Everyone says like St. Olaf is good in academics, but I think getting a multicultural curriculum shouldn't be a choice. Like, this is something that you have to know if you're going to understand the world and the way that it is. And if they don't do that, they're really not giving students here a complete education.
Students should be here to learn and to grow. It is our responsibility to promote a better picture of what the world is really like and what diversity really is.
And I remember just being surrounded by Latinos and African Americans. I felt like that was the world. I just thought, wow, you're a different color. You want to play? The middle school I attended was previously a detention center, so there weren't any windows in the classrooms. And I think that's where I first saw what the world thought of us. That's what the country saw African Americans, Latinos, minorities as. Just people who would eventually end up in a detention center. And it was always, if you see a cop, look down. Don't try to attain attention.
Obviously, race plays a huge important factor whether you get a good education or not. For most schools, the better you do, the more funding you get. The worse you do, the less funding you get, which is kind of ironic because how do you expect a school to do better if you cut funding from them? The poorer schools are in low-income neighborhoods where the population is, who do you know, blacks and Hispanic. We don't really have anyone that has guided us or shown us what it is to be in college. We're not here because of affirmative action, although that does help in leveling out the playing field in which we start a little bit. Just as all those white kids here are here on campus, we're here because we deserve to be here. I want to show people my culture, and I want to, show them something that they've never seen before and introduce them to something that they've never seen before.
I'm from a community where there's African Americans, Asians, Latinos. We are the majorities, and coming here, I became a minority. So I feel like I can't connect with much of the students here. I did not think freshman year that I was going to be in college. I did not think that was going to be a possibility for me. Not only financially, but academically, I really, really doubted myself. And going on to senior year, I had no doubt that I was going to be accepted into St. Olaf. A lot of white privileged people don't understand that they do have this privilege. This privilege does exist for them. They can walk around a store perfectly fine without having someone follow them or look at them in a suspicious way. Or even to walk down your neighborhood like feeling unsafe. They're lucky to be who they are because society has built itself around them. And us as minority students, we have to work around their culture to get into it. And they're lucky people. They're very lucky.
I was definitely of the colorblind person that kind of just wanted to ignore a lot of structural things. Now knowing the structural consequences that either my group or other minorities had gone through, I started to change up a lot of the way I was thinking. What it made me do is really appreciate who exactly where I was, who I was, my background and stuff. My parents came from Mexico. They came here, and their whole thing was just getting a job. Now I have this opportunity to go to school and not only go to college but also do something. I feel very privileged, but I also feel like this kind of burden that I feel like whatever I do has to be of great importance.
I remember looking up at the sky and saying, "My God, I am free. This place gave me freedom." And I stand here to fight for that freedom because the power of silence kills and chills. And I cannot let this happen anymore. Silence leads to people abusing themselves, to hurting themselves, to allowing someone to touch them, to have students feel like they need to kill themselves because that is the only way that they feel like they can find salvation. I found salvation through this college, through this community. I've been asked if my father works at McDonald's. or how long have I been in this country. They don't see the real person.
College has always been a dream for me, but again, this has been a dream. It's crazy that this has been my actual reality to attend this school. I'm a low-income student. I'm thankful that the financial aid department is super awesome in helping me attain my dream of coming here, but I still struggle every semester. I don't know if I'm going to return every semester. Every time I have to think about paying for my tuition, it's wondering whether or not my little siblings will be disenfranchised because my parents can't provide co-curricular activities for them to be well-rounded. And that's really hard to deal with when I look at my little sister who's in first grade or my little brother who's in kindergarten and realize that maybe because I'm here going to college, they won't be able to have the same opportunities. I went and talked to a couple professors who were concerned about the fact that I wasn't bringing my materials to class and told them, I can't afford your textbooks. Their response was to take out a loan. I don't think a person's answer to their problem should be to take out a loan. We have the resources here to provide for all students. Knowledge is not a privilege, it is a right. And knowledge is also empowerment. I shouldn't be assumed that because I'm here, that I have the money to be here. I don't.
But when you come from a neighborhood like I come from, you're not supposed to make it out. I was born into a place where people weren't willing to tell me that I could make it. People weren't willing to give me false hope. I trusted this school a lot in taking everything that I had and knew at home to move here for 4 years. This is my home.
And I got here and, I was a number, and that's really hard.
When people that are higher up in this school talk about me, they put me on a chart. If we looked at ourselves the way some of the people here look at us, we would have never valued our own stories enough to think that we deserve to be heard, to think that we deserve to make it out. Me coming here is a big deal. That me, and not just me, so many other people on this campus made it here, not by accident, but with a lot of effort and with a lot of specific steps that needed to be taken that if they didn't take, they maybe wouldn't have made it here.
First classes as a music major and grade con student, and I'm the only black face in all of them, the only black girl in my dorm, and I've never felt more alone in my life. Every time race is mentioned in class, the professor turns to me, hoping that I can speak from my experience, or better yet, on behalf of everyone of my color. I had papers ready to go to transfer from St. Olaf College my sophomore year. And I had the opportunity to study abroad, and I spent my summer in Ghana, and I was the first person in my family to go back to Africa since slavery. And that definitely was a life-changing moment. And I started to understand that St. Olaf does have the systems in place to help us. They're just a little too inaccessible. How do we make this diversity seem like it's more included? It's not just the numbers, it's the experience. It's not the quantity, it's the quality.
The struggles that we as disadvantaged populations endure are kind of silent. People don't necessarily know of what you're struggling with emotionally, academically. It's kind of like you're constantly trying to compete with people here at St. Olaf.
I learned pretty early on in my life that I needed to lose my Asian accent if anyone was going to perceive me as intellectual. As soon as school started, I was like, oh, I don't want to be known as that low-income student. I don't want to be stuck with the SSS kids. I felt like I had to get rid of them or get rid of my past or be completely white to fit into St. Olaf. I didn't want to be seen with them or associated with them because there's such a bad stigma with the trio kids. I learned that all about these power structures and stuff, and about how sometimes you're just made to feel like you're the other person. And that's how I felt throughout my first semester. I felt like I was the other person. I felt like I wasn't truly an Ole because I wasn't always chippy all the time. Or I wasn't white enough. That's who I am. I come from a low-income background, and that's what made me who I am today, And that I can't escape my past. And that I shouldn't try to.
I was homeschooled until 7th grade. It wasn't the best in a lot of ways.
People always kind of looked at me and were surprised that I did well. Class was affecting my education, and that because of it, I had to work harder to get to college. So I didn't really expect there to be any sort of culture shock between me and the people here. But there really was. I felt like where other people could talk about, their family life, they could talk about their vacations and all the fun stuff they're doing. I just wasn't supposed to talk about my family.
That aspect of these people don't really know who I am because they don't understand the struggle sometimes that as a minority one has to go through. Are people looking at you like, oh, they probably only accepted you here because you're a minority, which is completely untrue because I worked so hard to get to where I am. It wasn't just given to you. I didn't see that many Latinos going, at least from my neighborhood, going to college or even finishing high school. It's definitely difficult to just make sure that you have the money to even make it next semester or make it next year. Sometimes people don't even believe you can make it, and that makes you doubt yourself. It has happened to me before where I've questioned, can I actually make it? It makes me just want to work harder. Like, I can do it. If they can do it, why can't I?
I never had to identify as a white male, and that's the privilege that I have. The fact of the matter is there are institutional inequalities that make people suffer. And so while I was being race blind, I was being ignorant. And ignorance is bliss for me. Because while I was being blissful and ignorant, other people were suffering.
Going into these situations, I feel bad because of my place of power. My people have historically done this, and I don't know how to fix it, and I don't know what to do. And now that I'm here finally, I want to stand up for something. I want to stand up for other people in my life. I want to support them. But most importantly, I want to stand up for me.
A deal. A couple years ago, St. Olaf decided to do this whole big thing on vocation. They figured out a way where every single first-year student met with a faculty member. It was a way, I think, of the college community saying to the student, this is important enough for every single first-year student to have this conversation. And so it seems to me that you could do something similar like that around race or around class, where you could have every single student at St. Olaf and every single faculty member and every single staff member be challenged.
Even just having an open discussion about it, even with the faculty, would be helpful. But again, we are not in a position to do that.
The school system should change how they approach race in the classrooms.
There could be a little bit more of a stricter guideline for professors as far as any course that gets this GE attached to it has to make sure it covers these basic components or this, critical race theory.
The only way we are ever going to fix this race problem or all this institutional issues is through talking about it.
We need to educate each other, and we need to have this discussion.
We do need that open space. We do need a place where people can just openly say the things that they live through that people shouldn't have to live through, but they're real.
To think that the person coming here as an underrepresented student who may be struggling for a multitude of reasons doesn't have something to teach you. Absolutely they do. They have a whole life experience to teach you. We don't want to be known as a campus with racial problems, right, or something like that. But we could turn that inside out and say we're a campus where we're willing to look these complex problems in the eye.
I think there needs to be communication and a commitment on the part of the college that says we are really committed to this and we're ready to do whatever it takes.
The first step is getting people to have the conversations, and then the next one is making sure we do more than just talk about it and we actually make a difference. There's more to the world than what unfortunately the mainstream culture at St. Olaf is. People need to acknowledge that me coming here is a big deal. That me, and not just me, so many other people on this campus I can think of off the top of my head, made it here
not by accident, but with a lot of effort and with a lot of specific steps that needed to be taken that if they didn't take, they maybe wouldn't have made it here. So we're not numbers. That number does not represent us. You can't put a number to those stories. If we're ever going to leave this place and actually make a difference, it's going to be the people who know the real struggles, the things that need to be changed.
We have to work together with the administration. We are not fighting. We're working it together to make this place better and more accepting for everyone.
So the best I can do is I can empathize and I can talk, and when I see racism happening, I can call it out. I can do my part to change things, as all of you can.
You have the power to express yourself, sometimes even whether they want to hear you or not.
I'm not silent, and this is my real Authentic Ole experience.
We would like to thank the students and professors for helping to make this documentary possible, and for the viewers for taking the first step in making St. Olaf a more inclusive environment.
We also encourage you to check out our website, which features full coverage of the 2014 Authentic Oles event, extra footage from our interviews with students and faculty, and additional resources to help get the inclusivity movement going on and off campus.
Make sure to share your story on the page as well. Make sure to also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter to stay updated on recent events and stories. Thank you.